The Apple original series Servant has finally come to a close, and because this is from M. Night Shyamalan, I expected the show to serve up some sort of twist. So does the story of Leanne, Dorothy, Sean, and Julian give us a satisfying end? For me, this is the best season so far. Everything leading up to this has been mysterious, quirky, unsettling, odd, and even sometimes funny. Leanne has been nothing but an enigma, and the question has been circling of whether she's really been able to do all the things that she purports, or if she's just a big fraud. From the opening episode, the stress and urgency of the season have increased, charging forward towards the finale with just each episode gaining more and more momentum. I love how nail-biting so many of the arcs have been in this season, from the home health workers that Dorothy hires to the suspicious neighbors who just seem to always be lurking or even peering towards the home, and then all of the people in the park, too. The cast has continued to be stellar with their performances, and after seeing the full arc of all of the seasons, Lauren Ambrose, she has done such an amazing job in her role as Dorothy. Honestly, she's grated on me for the majority of the show. Her grief, though, and behaviors are somewhat understandable, but that doesn't mean that she becomes just automatically sympathetic. In this season, she gives a performance that is riveting and heartbreaking. And I love how the story has taken a go-get-em character and basically immobilized them for the majority of this season, forcing somebody who's very self-sufficient to become very dependent on others. And when that other becomes Leanne, we know we're in for some fireworks and tense drama. Now, there's a scene towards the latter half of this season where Ambrose absolutely commands the screen. While she's not the only one present, everybody else just seems to disappear into the background, bowing to the gut-wrenching display that she gives. Her performance is guttural and raw, and it's completely believable. And I love how this scene then affects the remainder of the show, guiding every action moving forward. And I don't think you'll necessarily expect the outcomes that were shown, which I think is a huge plus. While a lot of the arc may seem obvious, my expectations were subverted by some clever writing and character direction. And Ambrose isn't the only one with some great scenes. Each has the opportunity to take the spotlight at different times, mainly with Nell Tiger Free's Leanne being the focus for a lot of it. Now, I love the progression that we've watched over the season as she's gone from mousy and timid to now somebody who's full of confidence, and maybe even hubris. She's certainly coming into her own, and that makes for some exciting situations and character interactions. Now, if you've been waiting for the season to be over before diving in, I think you're in for a treat because the urgency and anticipation of each episode really build towards the final climax. And once we get to that climactic scene, it does go a bit sideways and it takes a slightly strange turn. And at first, I think the outcomes are very vague and mysterious, which then does fit with Leanne, so it's actually not that strange at all, right? Well, the effects in this sequence, they're just kind of okay. For what they're doing, a lot of it has to be CGI, so that's not a shock or a surprise that it's there. I just wanted some of those visuals to look a bit more realistic when all's said and done. Now, one of the highlights of the show for me has been the dynamic between Toby Kebbell's Sean and Rupert Grint's Julian. They are weirdly antagonistic towards each other, but they also come across as almost the best of friends. They have a lot of no-nonsense conversations where feelings are never spared with just their blunt and abrupt words. But for as much as they may get on each other's nerves, there's still just this camaraderie and now even a common goal that unites them. And both actors continue to deliver some very engaging performances, with Rupert Grint being my favorite because of how salty he is just all the time. He's perpetually grumpy, and that makes me chuckle, especially as he delivers his snide remarks that are just muttered under his breath. Now, all throughout this fourth season, there have been episodes that played with anxiety and fear, which then helped to make what we watch pretty haunting. And normally, we do see stress and anxiousness from Julian, and even Sean to a degree, but I love how the episodes introduced new and clever ways to freak everybody out. There's a Halloween episode that is nothing short of violently freaky, and the build-up that episode creates just put me on edge. And something the show has really consistently done to add a creep factor all the way across is with the cinematography. The shot choices and the angles help to establish an ominous or unsettled atmosphere, and this season works a lot of these into each episode so that we get a bit freaked out, but may not immediately know why. It's great at setting the tone and then maintaining that feel throughout. So I asked a question at the start of this if the ending was a satisfying one, and if there may even be a twist to the story. Well, there is a slight twist, but it's way more subtle than I was expecting. In fact, I didn't know the twist had been revealed until a little later. There was some context that I was missing that once it was shown, it puts everything else into the correct perspective. And when this happened, I was actually blown away, and I had one of those Jimmy Neutron brain blast moments where the monster light bulb just went on in my head, and everything then made sense. Now, I'm definitely not going to tell you what the end is, nor what it means, but just be sure to really pay attention to the dialogue as the episode goes along. It's all right there, and for me, it nailed the landing. I think the story does conclude just a little bit quickly, but because all of the episodes hang around that 30-minute mark, the final episode, it just didn't have a lot of time to sit with moments because there was a lot to complete and put together. And even though it is slightly rushed, I was still very much digging the finale. I mean, it now makes me want to go back and binge from the very beginning to see what clues were present all along. Now, for me, this was an excellent wrap-up to a phenomenal show. I honestly had been worried each season that as the show got towards the conclusion, that it was just going to fall apart and become lame with some tepid finale or maybe just rationalization. But the subtlety that the show uses to pull the veil back for us and then provide answers, it was brilliant and rewarding. The performances are stellar, and this final season uses the story arcs to give each character some moments to take the lead. So when closure comes, nobody comes across as being short-shrifted. The themes of faith, family, and control have been amazing to watch as they powerfully play out to create extreme chaos and doubt, but also to heal wounds. And I'm blown away at how well the series concludes, and really, I can't wait to revisit it again. There's sex, some nudity, a ton of profanity, and a bunch of violence. I give the final season of Servant 4.5 out of 5 couches. So, have you been a fan of this show? Do you have a favorite character or maybe a favorite moment? Let me know about it in the comments below. If you enjoyed this review, please give it a like. Also, don't forget to share and subscribe. I'm Chris. This is Movies and Munchies. Thanks for couching with me.